Camera rolling and action.
Hi, I'm Mr. Masango Abel, currently working for Homes under Siriti Pit F. So our pit is an open pit mining. So today I'll be presenting about inspections. As we all know that inspections are the most critical documents that are used on a daily basis. So this is an example of a checklist that we normally use or take to the pit when we do our inspections. So for now, I'll tell you guys what an inspection is. So an inspection is a process for performing close critical examinations. So that means we check on the materials, equipment, practices, and conditions. So we need to make sure that everything is still on point. So as we all know that there's always benefits for doing something. So now I'll talk about benefits of inspection. So under the benefits of inspections, we have undefined and correcting. Then we have reconfirming of equipment, of which it's taking the equipment and everything about it. Then we have the undefined plan and changes. So on that one, it's more changing the ramps and changing the roadways inside the pit while we are mining. Then we have undefined ergonomic needs. So this one has to gel with what the operators are doing or the workers are doing. Then now we will go for inspections. Under inspections, we have what we call inspection schedules. So the inspection schedules are always planned. So what we mean about that is that inspection schedules are planned by the chief safety officer. So when we go for inspections, we will know already that on this day I have to do an inspection on this pit and doing 1, 2, 3. So under this one, it's an inspection schedule to identify and display. So normally they display them on the notice board for the safety team or the safety committee. Then we have what we call appointments. Appointments are done by the managers for certain people or for competent and legally appointed people. So in order for you to do inspections, you need to be legally appointed. So on this one, you have to carry a certain appointment so that you can be able to do inspections. Then you have to keep the records. We have what we call the safety files. Safety files are used to keep records of all the inspections that we do in the pit. So under record keeping, we have inspections to be recorded. So the inspections to be recorded are the formal inspections because we have two types of inspections. We have the formal ones and the informal inspections. So the informal inspection is just going to the pit to see or to oversee what the workers are doing. Then you just tell them verbally if they are doing good or not doing good. So under this one, on the record keeping, we're talking about the formal inspections. When we talk about formal inspections, we mean the inspections that are recorded and planned. So you have to plan for a formal inspection. So when we plan for the inspections, you have to inform the supervisor so that he can be part of the inspection day. So on the inspection day, we keep the records. Then after that, we send out the minutes or the list of the inspection because the site manager has to sign it off. So we have monthly reports. We have monthly reports. We have monthly reports to be sent. Then on the monthly reports, we have to include everything that we've done from the first to the last day of the month. Then we have what we call audits to be performed. On the audit, there's always someone that will be appointed or selected to do the audit. In most cases, it's the chief safety officer himself. Then we have the over inspections that is done by the manager, site manager, or the sheriffs. So what happens here is they do a follow up on what we have pick up and the things that I have to be rectified. So we have types of inspections that we use in an open pit mining. For example, we are on an open pit mining, so there's what we call supervisor workplace inspection. On the supervisor workplace inspection, we have what we call a TARP that they are using currently. So on the TARP, we have the high risk job and everything. So on this one, when the supervisor does it, he has to go to the pit by himself uh, and also invite one of the safety personnel before the start of shift. So what happens when we do the tap is when we get there, we check the high walls, we check the low walls, we check the roads, we check the demarcations, we check the condition of the pit if it's safe to work there or not. Then on this one, the supervisor has to carry a legal appointment before he can perform this duty. So this duty is not performed by someone who is not competent and someone who does not have a legal appointment. So the supervisor is the one that is responsible for the inspection of the supervisor inspections. Then we have what we call the interval of the inspection of the supervisor. So the interval, it's simple, guys. On the interval of the supervisor inspection, they do the inspection before the start of shift, so it's prior. Then after the blast, they also have to do the inspection again to check if everything is still on the standard that they wrote on the tab. Then if the weather condition does change, then they have to do the inspection again. Even if we are working in the pit, they also have to keep checking the pit if the condition have changed or not, because there's many things that can happen during the shift. So on this one, the supervisor always has to be there so that he can do the inspection prior. So on high wall inspections, there should be a responsible person for inspecting the high wall. For example, if you are working under production, there should be a supervisor that will work that you will work underneath. So I'll start by responsible person under drilling personnel. Under drilling personnel, the responsible person should be their supervisor under drilling. So what happens here is the supervisor will write his own TARP, then his own safety declaration on the high wall inspection on where they'll be working. In most cases, they get close to the high walls. So they have to make sure that the high wall inspection is on point, and they have identified all the hazards and risks on that high wall and make sure that the high wall is clear from faults and everything. So if there's any disturbing thing on the high wall, then they have to escalate the issue. So on this one, they also have to fill in what we call a high wall. It's a high wall declaration. Then they also have to have a drop zone permit because they'll be working in the drop zone area. Then under the blasting one, there's blasting personnel, which is it's the blaster himself or the person that will be carrying an appointment under the blasting team. So on this one, the blaster will do the safe declaration on them, then check everything. If it's on point, then they can proceed with their work. Then under production, there's a supervisor, then there's also the safety team. So the safety team, they do assist, and even the workers, they also do assist. If they see that there's a change, then they are welcome to call the supervisor so that he can update the declaration. So here, you have to carry the appointment to do the logbook, but for observing, anyone can help on that one. So this is a picture or an example of a high wall. So a high wall have to clear or should be cleaned while we are loading. So while loading, the high wall should be cleaned also. So a clean high wall, you see it with the drilling barrels that are visible enough. So if the barrels are not there, then we know that there's a problem or a fault on that high wall. So if the high wall did not get cleaned properly, that's when we do what we call high wall cleaning. Then there should be a JSA or a document that allows the excavator to go and clean. But always there should be a 10-meter, the excavator that will clean should be 10 meters apart with the high wall. So now we'll talk about the inspections that are done on the machines and the buckets. So there's pre-use inspection. Pre-use inspection is the inspection that we've done before the use of the machine or the use of a bucket. So always before you use the machine, you have to do what we call pre-use inspection. How we do the pre-use inspection? We first do the walk-around inspection to check if everything is fine, there are no damages on the outside. Then that's when you can get inside the cab or inside the bucket to do the other inspection that we call a pre-start inspection. So on the inspection one, in order for you to do the inspection, you have to have a license for that machine. So you have to be licensed and authorized by a competent person. So when you have the license for the machine, you are the person that is authorized to get the key of the machine, then go and do the inspection in a good way. So doing the inspection, you shouldn't make the tick-tick or that no, maybe I know my machine on the back that I've been using it for a long time. No, but you have to do the machine inspection step by step so you can pick up all the faults. So on this one, the responsible person is the person that is having a license. So it should be all the operators that are competent, all the supervisors with the driver's license, or I can just say all the drivers that do have the licenses. So on this one, when it comes to the machines, after doing the inspection and writing everything, you'll see there are categories there. So on the categories, you have to make sure that you tick correctly. Don't mix up things. Then after that, you go to the brake test RAM to test the brakes of the machine. But if the condition is not allowing you, there's what we call the pre-start brake test procedure that you test the machine on a flat surface. So on the previous inspection, I think I've covered everything. So now I'll just show you the example of the checklist. It can not be the exact checklist, but it's one of the checklists that we are using.
It's more than.
So on the blasting area inspection, the responsible person for that is the blaster himself. So the blaster is the one who is carrying the appointment letter or the appointment. So on the appointment, you have to have the appointment on writing. Then the blaster himself will do all the work that is supposed to be done by the competent person who was found competent by a competent person. So on this one, the blaster himself will do all the paperwork that is needed before he can start preparing for the blast. So during the preparation, he has to notice everyone that on this day or today we'll be blasting on this time of the day and we'll be blasting what material and on which block. So there's what we call SLAM or JSA. So now we are using JSA, but it was a SLAM before. So on the JSA, the responsible person is a team leader. So on the team leader, it can be a safety rep or the supervisor himself. So on the team leader, the safety rep has to call everyone that is working on that area so that they can discuss the hazard and risk on the working area that they are working at. So on this one, the JSA, you have to mention all the hazards, all the risks, and also the controls. So if the controls cannot be implemented, that place shouldn't be declared as a safe place. So on this one, the responsible person has to make sure that the controls are there. So if we don't have the controls, we stop the operation and start fixing. So now we are open for questions. Any question?